Coastlines supporting fragile ecosystems include mangroves, coral reefs, seagrass, and seaweeds. The marine biodiversity is also significant considering its key role in livelihood of those dependent on it. Mangroves can protect the coastal aquifers from seawater intrusion and safeguard the coastal communities from natural calamities like cyclones. Coastal wetlands play an important role in water quality regulation by capturing and filtering sediments and organic waste transit from inland. India has a coastline of about 7,500 kilometers, of which about 5,400 kilometers belong to peninsular India and the remaining to the Andaman, Nicobar and Lakshadweep Islands. The relationship between climate change and biodiversity is well documented now. Do you know that if the Earth's temperature rises by 3.5 degrees Celsius, it may lead to a loss of 70% of species on the planet?
Actually, the threat is like this, that with every 2-degree change in warming of the Earth, it is estimated that about a third of the total species will be affected. This is a very rough guess. And if you combine that this whole thing of global warming with the fact that so much infrastructure is being built in the world and also in the biodiverse areas of the world, we are going to find a large isolation of species.
The major threat to biodiversity is coming from human activity. Industries, mining, agriculture require exploitation of natural resources, leading to the loss of habitat of many species. The good news, however, is that many companies are now realizing the importance of protection of biodiversity. Biodiversity makes good business sense. Recently, a number of companies came together to demonstrate their leadership position in addressing the biodiversity loss.
Of course, it makes business sense. We all know that it makes a business sense, which is why the 12 companies have signed up today. And if you look at them, they range from a company which is in nutrition products right up to company which is in power production to company which is in producing steel. So it's a wide range of industry which has come together. So it's not, and automotive companies. We all come together for one basic cause, that we believe that it is important that the industry engage with this topic. The topic falls under the ambit that you certainly need development, for which India certainly needs development, but it has to be sustainable development. We cannot have unsustainable development.
The business case for biodiversity from a extractive industry point of view is that we have an impact on biodiversity. So we need to take the mitigating steps to preserve that biodiversity. The reason for doing that is that the services we get from biodiversity are important for us, but also that the community expectations that we preserve biodiversity is also there. So if we need access to resources and land, therefore we need to be able to demonstrate that we will preserve biodiversity in the process. So that's the business case.
The India Business and Biodiversity Initiative is a platform for business to promote mainstreaming sustainable management for biological diversity.
Today, the day when one had to come to Delhi to get license is over. In India, you don't need license from government, but today you need license from the community. So industries and companies realize it, which is one of the issues why we are so much engaged with this issue in our own self-interest. That if we don't work on this, if we don't work for the betterment of the community and protect the bioassets for them, we will not be allowed to operate. And we've had many examples where companies have rushed ahead and had to pull back. And companies are learning now it is better to spend larger amount of time engaging with communities, engaging with the public bodies to make sure that everybody is on a common platform and understands the risks and what the company is doing to mitigate the risks to ensure that its operations are smooth.
Industry has realized that only those companies will survive in the future who are sensitive to biodiversity.
The case is the license to operate. So a license to operate is the most, for us, is what our business is based on. Unless we get the society to accept that we are allowed to be there, we would not be there. Yeah? So making sure that we preserve biodiversity is not only a societal expectation, it also helps us in the services we get from the environment as well.
Apart from loss of habitat and natural factors, big threat to biodiversity comes from poaching and trafficking of animals. Despite the progress made in stopping these activities, authorities are still struggling to find a long-term solution. Recently, a proposal to trim the horns of rhinos to protect them from poachers triggered another debate among the policymakers and environmentalists.
It's not a bizarre proposal. I think it has not been properly communicated. The time for doing these kind of things is difficult and is difficult for people to understand. And I think it should be understood first properly before you take a decision. Similarly, and let me say this, that we don't need these kind of interventions if other issues are looked after better. Like what people are saying, look after patrolling, take responsibility for anti-poaching activities, enforce your rules better, all those kind of things. And sometimes, because none of these things seem to be working at the same time, these kind of solutions are suggested.
That's not a very practical proposition. Catching each individual and earning. That should be the last resort when we say that, okay, we have failed in protecting these species from poachers.
The fact that both governments and industries are recognizing the importance of biodiversity reflects the urgency of the situation. But what can a common man do to protect the nature's treasure?
I think common man can do 2 or 3 things. One is the children that grow in our society, in our schools, families. They must get an exposure to this issue through actions, through camps, through holidays, through walk, through some way. And those elements of society who do not have the benefit of doing this, we must give them ways and means to connecting up by going forward, taking steps to make sure that you are part of it. This is one. The second is increase your knowledge. You heard, knowledge will lead to action. It will lead to thinking, it will lead to understanding.
First thing which one has to do is to whatever is left of nature, whether it is in urban setting, whether it is in rural setting, or if you are near forest area, whatever is left, that should be looked after well. And because we already have very little area under conservation, just 5.1% in our protected area system. But this is not enough. We should be conserving at least 10% of our land area to have a good tab on the entire range of biodiversity across our country. So therefore, everybody has a role to play.
Whatever is happening to our biodiversity also affects us. Biological diversity is the resource upon which the future generations depend. It is the link between all organisms on Earth. It's the web of life.
Really a global dimension on the endangerment of biodiversity, which is tremendous. It's about 50% of the wetlands which doesn't exist anymore. It's about 60% of the ecosystems who are really in danger. It's about 30% of the amphibians who doesn't exist anymore, 20%, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot what is happening worldwide. And for that reason, and on the other side, if you look to the businesses, I just read an interesting article. It's estimated that about 40% of the global economy is based on biological products or processes. 40%. It shows how much we depend on biodiversity, and it shows.
The important thing is that this is the first time it's happening when mankind is in charge of the planet. Earlier we were not in charge. Today we are in charge of the planet. We dominate it. So these areas, these species, this is in our care. It's in our responsibility. It's our family. We are head of the family. Let's look at it like that. We have to take care of this. And it's also happening at a time when the intellectual powers of mankind are evolved to an extent that you can understand this. The effect of mankind's actions, effects of our plans are making the world shape in a particular way, which it may not be and is not, from conservationists I would say, it is not designed to do so. If it is not designed to do so, then over a period of time something is going to crack. And therefore this decline of species and life on Earth may not be extinction completely, is our responsibility.
The Earth's natural assets are made of plants, animals, land, water and atmosphere, and also humans. Together we all form a part of planet's ecosystem, which means if there's a biodiversity crisis, our health and livelihood are at risk too. All species on Earth are dependent on each other. Do you know that bees are extremely important for human existence? And if bees disappear, it may cause a serious threat to our food security.
It is the bee and other insects which play a significant role. They are the only pollinators, and a lot of assessments, scientific assessments are available now. If pollination is affected, then all those species of edible plants and cereals and things like that which are relevant to us, which depend upon cross fertilization, they will not be reproducing seeds, they will not be reproducing fruits, and that's where these small bees and insects are so important in our entire food chain.
Immediately if you ask, supposing a butterfly dies in Orissa or in northern Karnataka, आपको क्या फर्क पड़ता है पंजाब में या दिल्ली में? Correct? Now what the system tells you, if you understand knowledge, that there may not be a direct effect like a radio wave from where you're catching your radio station, but there is an effect from the butterfly to the other butterfly, to the plant, to the tree, to the system, to this, right? And there, even some of these insects have local migrations which have effects on all those things. If you lose this, right, the extinction doesn't happen like gradually, extinction happens like this. And we should not come to that point. It's like a heart patient, you know, who's got a back. If you keep walking in that direction, you will fall off the roof. If you take certain steps and you move back and you change your lifestyle, then you might have more time and you will have definitely a better life. This is what conservation is telling us.
The challenges are grave, but we need urgent action to save the biodiversity of the planet. Saving biodiversity means saving the planet and saving ourselves. It is essential that we protect other species before we humans become endangered too.